Hello and welcome back to Russ's Movie Corner. My name is Russ, and as you can see, I'm sitting in front of my movie corner. I have my God the Father t-shirt on, my King of Kings movie right next to me, and judging by the frame around me, we are back, taking down another atheist. Well, he calls himself the Synoptic Agnostic, but this is Joseph Hewes, and his video, A Christian Apologist Who Left Christianity. On the last video, we kind of went over some of the points that he was trying to bring up when he was talking about some of his deconstruction journey, or how he left Christianity. He mentioned that he did a video called How to Become an Ex-Christian in 6 Easy Steps, and that his step 2 was to try to tackle the hard questions. And I brought up that it's a lot of the times when you're reading the Bible, okay, you'll find that yes, there are some hard questions, and if you need to answer those questions, then the best thing to do is to go find a Bible-based preacher, someone who has studied the Word all their life, okay, and listen to what they have to say about some of those hard questions. A lot of times, people like Joseph Hewes, Christy Burke, and even some of the atheists out there will say, "Oh, you Christians, you just run away from these things. You don't really face these things. You don't really care about this stuff." That's not true. Okay? There may be some unpleasant truths that a lot of people try to stay away from, but honestly, we as Christians are not trying to run away from the hard questions. Okay? Sometimes people are not aware of the answers to those hard questions. And instead of seeking out those answers, a lot of people run away from those hard questions. Okay? Because they think, oh, if I just run away from them, if I just ignore them, they'll go away. But, and let me just stop and say, it is okay to doubt. It is okay to have moments where you question your faith. Okay? Everybody's done it. And if they're not, they're lying. If they say they haven't, they're lying to you. Because I can guarantee you they have had doubts in their life at some point. Okay? But that's the reason for the full armor of God. Is because that's how Satan likes to attack us a lot of the time. Is to come in and start attacking us with doubts. That's the reason why, okay, in Ephesians 6, when he's talking about that, okay, when Paul is talking about this in Ephesians chapter 6, he says, okay, in addition to all of these, hold up the shield of faith to stop the fiery arrows of the devil. Put on the salvation as your helmet. Take the sword of the Spirit, which is the Word of God. Now, some translations will translate that as flaming darts. Sometimes they'll say even just doubts. And that's basically how he attacks us. That's basically how he likes to attack us. Because the thing is that your faith is important to extinguish those arrows of doubt. That's the whole reason why you put on the armor of God. If you're not walking into battle every day with the armor of God, okay, what are you doing? And that's just a basic question. What are you doing? Okay? And let me tell you something. If you're not reading this every single day, if you're not reading the Word every single day, okay, you're not going into battle prepared. And that was one of the things that I brought up in this last one, was I said, what was the one book that Mr. Hewes here didn't read enough of? What is the one book that he did not read at all, okay, during this period? The Bible, right? He said he read like 200 books, except for the one book that mattered, the Bible, okay? And that's why I was saying, I'm sure what happened is every time he went to go talk to these, or witness to Mormons or Jehovah's Witnesses or anybody like that, he got his buns handed to him. Because guess what book they're studying every single day? Now, granted, it's corrupted because their book is actually completely different than our Bible, because they've changed a lot of the passages around. Okay? But Mormons and Jehovah's Witnesses study the Bible probably more than any other Christian on the planet. Okay? And that says something. Because if you're not ready, if somebody comes up to your door, knocks on the door, and you open it up and they say, "Hi, we're Mormons," or "Hi, we're Jehovah's Witnesses," if you're not ready with an answer, the best way that you can tell them to kind of go away is just say, "You know what? I'm a Christian. I believe Jesus is the Son of God. Thank you very much. I don't want any of your literature," and then just close the door. Okay? Because, and I used to do that when I was a kid. I mentioned that in the last one. I used to do that when I was a kid because I knew that it was never, ever, ever going to be good for me to try to go after some of those people when I didn't know as much about the Bible as they did. And it wasn't until later on, when I started getting to know the Bible better, that I could hold my own in conversations with Jehovah's Witnesses or Mormons. Okay? And nowadays, they don't... If I go up to... It's kind of funny because I used to have Mormons come to my door all the time. Now they don't. Do you know why? Because I know the Bible, okay, as much or better than they do. And so what ends up happening is that when they can't answer you, they mark your name off and they don't come back. Okay? Because they know that if you know the Bible better than they do, they don't want to come back because they know that you're going to be able to beat them in a theological debate. And it's the same way with Jehovah's Witnesses. Okay? Jehovah's Witnesses don't come to my parents' door anymore because I scared them away. Okay? My parents, they have Jehovah's Witnesses and Mormons that live in their neighborhood where they are, and they've been there for like 50 years now. And the people, they just know, don't go to that house. Okay? Because there are people there that know the Bible, you know, as much or better than we do, and so we're not going to go there because that's just going to be counterproductive for us. We don't need to get into theological debates. Okay? And so the biggest thing that you can do, okay, is make sure that you understand as a Christian how important it is to know this book. That's why I ask every single video now for like the past like month and a half, 2 months, how sharp is your sword? Okay? Now, I'm just going to read this Living Bible translation here really quick, just to kind of let you know. Okay? It says, this is 14 through 17. Okay? But to do this, you will need the strong belt of truth and the breastplate of God's approval, or righteousness. Wear shoes that are able to speed you on as you preach the good news of peace with God. In every battle, you will need faith as your shield to stop the fiery arrows aimed at you by Satan. And you will need the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the Word of God. Okay? As Christians, that's what we need. And if we're not doing that, then we're not doing our jobs effectively. We are effectively walking into battle naked. Okay? Now, I'm not saying that you're physically taking your clothes off and walking out, but it's the same thing. Okay? If you were to walk out onto a battlefield, okay, even today, you were to walk out on a battlefield, and people were like, here, put on this plate carrier, here, put on this helmet, here, carry this gun, and you were like, no, I'm good, I'm just going to walk out there. You'd get shredded, right? Okay? That's the point. If you're not walking out with that armor on, you're going to get shredded in debates. You're going to get shredded in your witnessing. You are going to get shredded no matter what you try to do. No matter how many books you try to read about witnessing to Mormons, witnessing to Jehovah's Witnesses, whatever. It doesn't matter. Okay? Now, let me pause the video for 1 minute. Okay? It'll be less than a second for you, but let me pause this video for 1 minute because I actually do have the Kingdom of the Cults book, and I forgot to bring it over to here. So, hang on just 1 second. I'll be right back. And we're back. So, what I wanted to do was I wanted to show you that this is the Kingdom of the Cults. This is the 97 edition. Okay? And, like, I'm just going to go over some of the things that he talks about. Because he talks about, like, a lot of the language that cults use. Okay? He talks about the psychological structure of cultism, critiquing the cult mind control model, how they basically mentally enslave people into believing what they think is correct. Okay? And then he goes into Jehovah's Witnesses, Mormons, the Christian Science, the Theosophil. I can't say it. The TS basically. I can't say the name. And then Buddhism, the Baha'i faith, New Age cults, Unification Church, Scientology, Eastern religions, and then in the apocalyptic cults, I wanted to mention that he does, because I mentioned this before, but he does actually talk about the Branch Davidians. Okay, they're right down here. Okay, and then he also discusses, he also discusses the Jesus of the cults, how a lot of these different cults view Jesus. Is he the Messiah? Is he just the means to an end? It talks about the idolatry of what Jesus does, okay? And then in his appendix section, he talks about the Worldwide Church of God, the Word of Faith movement, okay, the puzzle of the Seventh-day Adventism. Now, let me just say this. There is nothing wrong with Seventh-day Adventists, because they're trying to follow both Jesus and the Old Testament, okay? There's a guy on YouTube, Bible Flockbox, who is a Seventh-day Adventist. I watch his channel. I don't watch it as much as I used to, but they're kind of teetering on the edge of cultism, okay? They do believe that Jesus is the Messiah, but they believe that Saturday is when you should be celebrating the Sabbath, not Sunday, which is the day Jesus rose from the grave. They believe in like only eating certain types of meat, same as the Jews. So yeah, they're not cult-ish per se, but they're kind of teetering on that edge. Okay. And then it talks about Islam, the message of Muhammad, and then it talks about Universalist Unitarianism, or Unitarian Universalists. So there's a whole host of really good resources that you can use. But again, if you don't know the Bible, studying stuff like that isn't going to help you win a battle or win a witnessing war, okay? In fact, you're going to end up going the way of this guy. So let's go ahead and jump back in, considering it's been just over 10 minutes of me kind of doing this introduction. But I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about this stuff, okay? So that you guys know, you have a kind of a foundation of where we're at in the video and what we're trying to do, okay? So let's jump in, and we will continue on with this.
You find out how indefensible some of these things are. Of course, as an apologist, you have to defend against all kinds of things. Contradictions. There are hundreds of contradictions in the Bible.
No, there aren't.
Okay, now, of course, Christians don't think they're contradictions. They think they're Bible difficulties.
No, they're not Bible difficulties either.
There are hundreds.
No. They're not Bible difficulties either. Okay? When you have 66 books written by about 40 different authors, okay? over a period of about 2,000 to 3,000 years of time. Okay? It is inevitable that one person in one book will have a different viewpoint than another person in another book. Okay? And what may seem like a contradiction at the time isn't actually a contradiction, because somebody might be using a different name to refer to the same person. Okay? Whereas the Jews might refer to, let's say, the king of Egypt as Pharaoh. Okay? Certain books might label him king of Egypt. Other books might label him Pharaoh. But we're talking about the same person, right? Across those two books. Non-Christians will label that a contradiction. Okay? In fact, I've seen many different people say that. Even Islam says that. Okay? Oh, in one part in the book, one part in the Holy Book, Moses refers to Pharaoh, but, in our book he says king, and that's the correct way to say it. And it's like, no, because he calls him the king of Egypt in a number of different places. Okay? And he's referred to interchangeably throughout the scriptures as Pharaoh or king. It doesn't matter. Okay? It's the same title. Everybody knows this, because we learn it. It's not a big deal. It's not like it's some massive thing where it's like, oh, you did this. So again, there's no contradictions in the Bible. Okay? And anyone who's trying to tell you there are will bring up some of the things like what he's about to say.
Words of contradictions. Okay, you have to defend every single one of them. If there's one contradiction that damages the Bible, that damages the reliability of the Bible.
And there isn't. Because the Bible is reliable. Again, there are almost 70,000 cross-references in the Bible. 70,000 cross-references from Genesis to Revelation. That is flippin' phenomenal, folks. There are no contradictions in the Bible. Okay? Now, what this guy's going to do is he is going to try to bring up some of the gospel accounts about some different events, okay, or about the same event, but they're different, and we'll get into that here in just a second, okay? But I just wanted to warn you right now that he's going to try to bring up some of these supposed contradictions, okay? And he's going to tell you, well, you just make yourself a little list, and you just list out all the things, and, you listen to how they say this and how they say that and blah, blah, blah. And we'll get into that, okay? Because I mentioned it in the last part, but we're going to get into it in this part.
You have to defend against God's bad behavior. God instructs the Israelites to kill all men, women, and children.
Yes, they did. Yes, he did. And why? Because they were godless heathens. Literally. Do I seriously need to read to you the justification for that, son? Okay? Let me see here. Trying to remember. Actually, here, let's run over to Deuteronomy. Let me see here. All right. Now this is the commandment, the statutes and the rules that the Lord your God commanded me. This is Deuteronomy 6. To teach you, that you may do them in the land which you are going over, to possess it, that you may fear the Lord your God, you and your son's son, by keeping all his statutes and his commandments which I command you, all the days of your life, that your days may be long. Hear therefore, O Israel, and be careful to do them, that it may go well with you, that you may multiply greatly, as the Lord, the God of your fathers, has promised you, in a land flowing with milk and honey. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. And with these words I command you today shall be on your heart. You shall teach them diligently to your children, and shall talk of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise. You shall bind them as a sign on your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. You shall write them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. And when the Lord your God brings you into the land he swore to your fathers, to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob, to give you, with great and good cities that you did not build, and the houses full of good things that you did not fill, and cisterns that you did not dig, and vineyards and olive trees that you did not plant, and when you eat and are full, take care lest you forget the Lord who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. It is the Lord your God you shall fear. Him you shall serve, and by his name you shall swear. You shall not go after other gods, the gods of your people who are around you. For the Lord your God in your midst is a what? Jealous God. Lest the anger of the Lord your God be kindled against you, and he destroy you from the face of the earth. You shall not put the Lord your God to the test, as you tested him at Massah. You shall diligently keep the commandments of the Lord your God, and his testimonies and his statutes, which he has commanded you. And you shall do what is right and good in the sight of the Lord, that it may go well with you, that you may go in and take possession of the good land the Lord swore to give to your fathers, by thrusting out all of your enemies from before you, as the Lord has promised. When your son asks you in the time to come, what is the meaning of the testimonies and the statutes and the rules that the Lord our God has commanded you, then you shall say to your son, we were Pharaoh's slaves in Egypt. And the Lord brought us out of Egypt with a mighty hand. And the Lord showed signs and wonders, great and grievous, against Egypt, and against Pharaoh and all his household before our eyes. And he brought us out from there, that he might bring us in, and give us the land he swore to give to our fathers. And the Lord commanded us to do all these statutes, to fear the Lord our God, for our good always, that he might preserve us alive as we are this day. And it will be righteous for all of us, if we are careful to do all this commandment before the Lord our God, as he has commanded us. Now, okay. Now, let me read the first part of Joshua chapter 1, okay? After the death of Moses, the servant of the Lord said to Joshua the son of Nun, Moses' assistant, Moses my servant is dead. Now, therefore, arise, go over this Jordan, you and all this people, into the land that I am giving to them, to the people of Israel. Every place that the sole of your foot will tread upon, I have given to you, just as I promised to Moses. From the wilderness and this Lebanon, as far as the great river, the river Euphrates, all the land of the Hittites to the great sea, toward the going down of the sun, shall be your territory. No man shall be able to stand before you all the days of your life. Just as I was with Moses, so I will be with you. I will not leave you or forsake you. Be strong and courageous, for you shall cause this people to inherit the land that I swore to their fathers to give them. Only be strong and very courageous, being careful to do according to all the law that Moses my servant commanded you. Do not turn from it to the right or to the left, that you may have good success wherever you go. This book of law shall not depart from your mouth, but you shall meditate on it day and night, so that you may be careful to do according to all that is written in it. For then you will make your way prosperous, and then you will have good success. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be frightened, and do not be dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. Okay? Now, starting in Deuteronomy 12:29, we'll read through chapter 13. I don't know if we'll read the whole chapter, but I just wanted to read through this, okay? When the Lord your God cuts off before you the nations whom you go in to dispossess, and you dispossess them and dwell in their land, take care that you not be ensnared to follow them, after they have been destroyed before you, that you do not inquire about their gods, saying, how did these nations serve their gods? Oh, I'm sorry. What were you lying there, Joseph? That I also may do the same. You shall not worship the Lord your God in that way. For every abominable thing that the Lord hates, they, meaning the people of Canaan, okay, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, all those guys, okay? You shall not worship the Lord your God in that way. For every abominable thing that the Lord hates, they have done for their gods. For they even burn their sons and their daughters in the fire to their gods. Everything that I command you, you shall be careful to do. You shall not add to it or take from it. If a prophet or a dreamer of dreams arises among you and gives you a sign or wonder, and the sign or wonder that he tells you comes to pass, and if he says, let us go after other gods, which you have not known, and let us serve them, you shall not listen to the words of that prophet or that dreamer of dreams. For the Lord your God is testing you to know whether you love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul. You shall walk after the Lord your God and fear him and keep his commandments and obey his voice, and you shall serve him and hold fast to him. But that prophet or that dreamer of dreams shall be put to death, because he has taught rebellion against the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt and redeemed you out of the house of slavery, to make you leave the way in which the Lord your God commanded you to walk. So you shall purge the evil from your midst. Now, let me jump over to I think it was, yeah. Okay. This is 2 Kings 16. In the 17th year of Pekah, the son of Remaliah, Ahaz, the son of Jotham, king of Judah, began to reign. Ahaz was 20 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 16 years in Jerusalem. And he did not do what was right in the eyes of the Lord his God, as his father David had done, but he walked in the way of the kings of Israel. He even burned his son as an offering, according to the despicable practices of the nation whom the Lord drove out before the people of Israel. Need I say more? It's right there! Again, did you fucking read the damn Bible? The despicable practice that the Lord warned the people not to do, guess what he did? He went and did it! You absolute freaking moron. That was the whole reason God said, when you go in to the land of Israel, you will kill every man, woman, and child. You will burn their gods. You will tear down their Asherah poles. you will do everything. Because if you don't, you're going to start worshiping those gods. And guess what happened? Go read the book of Joshua, go read the book of Judges, and then go read the books of 1st and 2nd Kings. Literally. That's all you have to do. Just read those 4 books. Okay? Joshua, Judges, and 1st and 2nd Kings. And guess what you're going to find? All of them, Joshua did not do what Moses commanded. Okay? They did not finish the job. They spared the people. And then in Judges, they started this cycle of worshiping gods. They got prosperous, then they started worshiping gods, they declined, the people got conquered, he rose up a judge from among them because they cried out, "Help us, Lord, save us, Lord," and then that person brings them back to God, teaches them the ways, and then they go back into prosperity, they start worshiping the gods again. And it's a cycle. It goes like this throughout the whole book of Judges. And then 1st and 2nd Kings starts great, right? Because Solomon's out there, he's doing everything that David did, he's trying to be all that good, and then what happens? He starts listening to his other wives, the wives that he took from the tribes around them. And he starts worshiping other gods. And then pretty soon, his children start worshiping other gods, and their children, and their children, and their children. And only like 1 in every 5 or 6 kings, actually did what was right in the sight of the Lord. There were many times reading through 1st and 2nd Kings where it's like, are you stupid? You're doing what's abominable in the sight of the Lord, and then when things happen, you're like, Lord, save us. He's like, why? Until he finally got pissed off, okay? Seriously, God was like, screw this, we're done. Okay? Because of Manasseh. Okay? In 2 Kings 21, Manasseh comes in, and he is the worst, by far, worse than Ahaz, worse than everybody. He is the worst. He comes in, he's killing everybody. He's killing his own sons. He's sacrificing them. He's killing innocent people in Jerusalem so that blood is running in the streets. Okay? They get so far down that God is like, enough is enough. And in 2 Kings 21, starting in verse 10, "And the Lord said by his servants the prophet, because Manasseh, the king of Judah, has committed these abominations, and has done things more evil than all the Amorites did who were before him, and has made Judah also to sin with his idols. Therefore thus says the Lord, the God of Israel, behold, I am bringing upon Jerusalem and Judah such a disaster, that the ears of everyone who hears it will tingle. And I will stretch over Jerusalem the measuring line of Samaria, and the plumb line of the house of Ahab, and I will wipe Jerusalem as one wipes a dish, wiping it and turning it upside down. And I will forsake the remnant of my heritage, and I will give them into the hand of their enemies, and they shall become a prey, a spoil to all their enemies, because they have done what is evil in my sight, and have provoked me to anger, since the day their fathers came out of Egypt, even to this day." What was that again? What were you lying, Joseph? Did you bother to read the damn Bible, son? Okay? Because it's all right here. Verse 16, "Moreover, Manasseh shed very much innocent blood, till he had filled Jerusalem from one end to another, besides the sin that he had made Judah to sin, so that they did what was evil in the sight of the Lord. Now the rest of the acts of Manasseh and all he did, and the sin that he committed, are they not written in the books of the Chronicles of the kings of Judah?" That's in, basically, if you go read 2 Chronicles, you'll read about that, okay? And then, okay, Amon comes in, and then he dies. Josiah comes in, okay? He was 8 years old, and he rebuilds the temple, flings open the doors, tears down the Asherah poles in the high places, does all of this stuff, gets Hilkiah the high priest to read the book of the law, okay, does all of this really great stuff, but the Lord is out of patience at this point. He is like, I have had it up to here. You're still getting... And Josiah is like, Lord, please, let me reign. Because I'm doing what's right in your sight, right? And he goes, okay, for your sake, I will not destroy your house. Only until you die. He goes out to battle, okay, in 2 Kings 23, starting in verse 28, okay, it says, now, 29, in the days of Pharaoh Necho, the king of Egypt, went up to the king of Assyria to the river Euphrates. King Josiah went to meet him, and Pharaoh Necho killed him at Megiddo as soon as he saw him. And his servants carried him dead in a chariot from Megiddo and brought him to Jerusalem and buried him in his own tomb. And the people of the land took Jehoahaz, son of Josiah, and appointed him and made him the king in his father's place. And the funniest thing is that I'm pretty sure that it's like Josiah goes out there, gets killed in battle, appears in heaven, and is like, seriously, Lord? I was doing what you wanted me to. I was going out to kill your enemies. Yeah, I'd had it. Told you, man, up to here. Okay? And then in 24 and 25, basically that's when Nebuchadnezzar basically comes down and captures the entirety of Jerusalem and Judah and Israel and carries them off to Babylon for 70 years. Okay? That was the Babylonian exile for 70 years. Okay? Which was kind of the start of... That wasn't really the true start of the 400 years of silence. It was kind of the end of the Babylonian exile when they came back and they rebuilt the temple. That after that rebuilt temple, that was kind of about the time that was the start of the 400 years of silence. Okay? Which, for those of you that don't know, that was the period where the apocryphal books were written. Okay? But my point was, okay, that Joseph here has never read the Bible, so he doesn't understand God's justification for saying, kill all of these pagan idolaters, because they will lead you astray. And what did they do? They didn't do that, and they led them astray. And God would punish them, then he would rescue them from that punishment, okay? To show them, look, I'm punishing you like a good father does, and then I'm rescuing you from said punishment. The problem is that people like Joseph Hewes, all they see is, oh, God told everybody to kill everybody. Ah! So? He's the creator, son. Did you not read the Ten Commandments? Did you not read where Jesus said, worship the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength? Duh. God's ways are not our ways, son. You have to be a moron not to understand that point. And look, I'm not trying to sit here and say that you can't have your views on God, however fucked up they may be. Okay? But you don't get to stand there and try to tell us Christians that it's wrong for God to say, kill them all. Because he killed all of the sinners in Sodom and Gomorrah. Because there was not a single righteous person outside of Lot and his family in those towns. 4 people out of 5 or 6 towns that were destroyed on that plain? Dude, seriously. Read the Bible.
How do you defend against that? No, of course.
You do! You do defend against it because you read where God says you worship me alone. That's literally the first damn commandment, son. Did you not read the Bible growing up? Did you not read the Bible at all as an apologist? What kind of a Christian apologist doesn't read the fucking Bible, son? Yeah, I'm righteously angry at this supposed Christian, okay? Because he knows less about the Bible than Christy Burke does, and that's saying something. I mean, I thought Deconversion Zone, granted, he was Catholic, okay? I'll grant him that. He was told what to believe, okay? Because that's what the Catholics do. The priests tell you what to believe. But this guy was supposed to be an evangelical Christian. I say supposed to be because I don't think he actually was. I don't think he knows what was in the Bible to begin with. Okay? And when you start building the straw man Jesus and straw man God in your mind, you're committing idolatry, Joseph. That is idolatry. Because you're not worshiping the God of the Bible. You're worshiping a man-made God in your own head that you have put inside of a box and said, oh, look at that. That is an immoral God. Ah! God's ways are not our ways, son. God is sovereign over everything he created, including you and me. If God decided to strike me dead right now in this chair, he would have every right to do so if he chose to. Yes, I said it. Because God's ways are not our ways. Now, obviously, I'm still alive. But if it's in God's best interests that certain people die for his glorification, who are you to question that? Because how do you know that those people can change? Those people might be so stuck in their ways that they cannot change. And the only way to change their minds is after they die. Now, you're probably wondering, what do you mean by that? Are you talking about purgatory? Are you talking about... No, I'm talking about in Abraham's bosom. Some of those people might have had some kind of righteousness. And they listened to Jesus when he was there, after he died. And they got saved. But the other ones, the lake of fire awaits them. Just as it awaits you, son. Because again, God's ways are not our ways. That's how you defend that. God is sovereign over everything he created. And if he decides it's in his best interest to kill a population of people, that's on God, man. Who are you to question the potter? You're the clay, son.
Of course, some apologists do defend that. They say, well, God's good. The Amalekites were evil. God told the Israelites to kill them all, and he was perfectly within his rights. Okay, now anyone with a moral compass knows there's something wrong with that.
No. Because where does their moral compass come from, dumbass? Where does the moral compass come from? Doesn't it come from the creator of the fucking universe? Oh, I'm sorry, was that supposed to be some mind-blowing revelation? Again, God's ways are not our ways. And no, they didn't destroy the Amalekites. They didn't destroy all the Hivites. They didn't destroy all the Philistines. They didn't destroy all the other people. They only killed, I think it was 60% of the people that they were supposed to kill. The rest of them they just drove out of their homes, okay, just a little bit further off, and then took possession of the cities. And then started marrying with them and started worshiping those gods. You absolute freaking idiot! Yeah, I'm pissed off. Because again, this guy doesn't know what the Bible says. Did you even bother to crack this damn book, son? You absolute freaking moron. I am so sick and tired of these self-righteous asshats thinking that they're better than us Christians. Because they've deconstructed or they've left Christianity. You were never a Christian to begin with, son. Because a true Christ follower follows the Word of God no matter what it says. Because we understand that God's ways are not our ways, son. That's how you defend against that. And you'd know that had you read the fucking Bible. This is the idiocy on display here. This is the amount of mental gymnastics that you need to go through to convince yourself that you are morally better than the creator of the universe. Son, you are going to have a really, really bad day when you get to heaven. It is not going to be fun for you. And I pity you for that. I really do. Because you are going to get owned by the Creator. When He picks up the book of your life and slams it down and starts reading all of your sins, you're not going to be able to look at Jesus and say, I knew you. Because He's going to say, I never knew you. Depart from me, you man of lawlessness. And I feel sorry for you, son, because you never were following the true Jesus. You never were. I really do feel sorry for you, son.
So does that mean that these Christian apologists don't have a moral compass? Actually, yes, that's exactly what it means.
So you're saying I don't have a moral compass and you do? Where is your morality, son? What in your eyes is evil versus good? How do you know that your sins are better than someone else's sins or less sinful in the eyes of God? Son, you're lying. My moral compass is great because I align it with this and with God. Okay? And no, you can't change my mind. Okay? You never will be able to. Because you, son, have no moral compass. You think you do. But your moral compass is so messed up that you're thinking that God doesn't have a moral compass. Because He ordered the Israelites to kill the Amalekites and the Canaanites and the Perizzites and Perizzites and the Hivites and all those. Really? Are you stupid? Yes. The answer is yes. Okay? Because again, God's ways are not our ways, son. And I've been doing apologetics one hell of a lot longer than you have. I've been doing this since 2001. Okay? And I'm still going strong. I became a Christian in 1997, and in 2001, when the internet was still in its infancy, I was defending this book. While you were becoming an ex-Christian, okay, and walking around thinking that you were morally superior to everyone but yourself, I was out defending the Bible, son. And I've been defending it ever since. And never once have I thought myself morally superior to God. Again, the amount of mental gymnastics necessary to get to that level of cognitive dissonance is staggering. Again, like I said, I thought Deconversion Zone was bad. Being that he was a Catholic, he had less than much knowledge of the Bible, and he made a lot of assumptions about things. This guy has never read the Bible at all. He's just regurgitating points that other atheists have laid at his feet. This is literally the same thing I've been defending against since I started defending the Bible in 2001 online, dumbass. This is so stupid. You can't prove yourself to be morally superior to anyone, son. Because who are you to say what is moral and what isn't? I mean, I literally read where the people were sacrificing their children to their gods. And you think that God saying, go kill all those people because they'll get you doing that, which actually fucking happened. Ahaz and Manasseh, two of the kings of Judah. You absolute freaking moron. Had you actually read the Bible, you would have known that. I just, my God, are you flippin' stupid, son? I can't with this guy. Like, literally, this guy is so idiotic. It is on a whole nother level than Christy Burke or Deconversion Zone. I mean, and even inspiring philosophy, okay? Like, I mean, they're over here, and he's in a whole class over here by himself, and he is just, like, completely gone off the deep end. So which is morally superior in your mind, then? God saying, go kill all those people because they're sacrificing their children, and they're committing acts of perversion, and they're doing really awful things, or the awful things that those people were doing. Seriously? I think God is the more moral one in that situation. I mean, haven't you ever heard the phrase, kill them all, let God sort them out? Duh. Where do you think we got it from, you idiot? We literally got it from the Old Testament. Kill them all, let God sort them out. Duh. I mean, Islam on this earth right now, and I'm not saying this is of all Islam, but in a majority of the Islamic countries, they have human trafficking, okay? They stone people to death. They stone gays. They behead gays. They kill people right and left. And yet, the left, politically, will say they're a religion of peace. And I'm not saying, and again, this is not all Muslims, but this is a majority of the Muslims, and the other Muslims will not denounce the ones doing these despicable acts. Now, I only bring that up because those people are descendants of Ishmael, who was also part of the descendants that were in Canaan at the time, that practiced these very things. You absolute freaking moron. All I'm going to say is, how dare you, sir? How dare you think that you're morally superior to the God who created you? You are so morally fucked up that it's not even possible to bring you back without some kind of supernatural help. Because you think you're morally superior to the being who created you. And when you die, you're going to have a huge, huge awakening. And it's going to suck for you, son. I'm sorry to say. I really hope that you come back to Jesus at some point. But at this point, I don't know that that's possible without some kind of supernatural help. Because this guy doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. Okay? Let's go a little bit longer and then we'll call it an episode.
Okay, now, I never got to a point where I got a PhD in biblical studies.
Well, that much is obvious. Because if you had a PhD in biblical studies, you wouldn't be saying half the stuff that you are saying. Because you would have actually read this. You'll notice that Bart Ehrman, okay, doesn't come from the standpoint of a Richard Dawkins. Now, Bart Ehrman disagrees with a lot of things in the Bible, okay? But he doesn't attack certain tenets of the Bible because he understands, because he's a Bible scholar, he understands that the way that things are justified in the Bible. So when God said, kill them all, let me sort them out, to the Israelites, and then they didn't do that, and like literally Moses tells the people, if you don't do this, this is exactly what's going to happen, and he predicts exactly what happens in the book of Judges. You're going to start worshiping gods. God's going to punish you. You're going to cry out for a savior. He's going to appoint a judge. That judge will save you, and you'll come back to God. And then you better remember how to do that, otherwise the cycle is going to repeat. And guess what happens? For like 350 years throughout the book of Judges, That's exactly what happened, you absolute freaking moron. Which you'd know if you'd actually read the Bible. This is the idiocy on display. Right here. I kind of wish you had gotten a PhD in Bible studies, Joseph, because we wouldn't be here right now. Okay? Because you wouldn't be here saying, oh, God's so morally corrupt, he tried to kill everybody. Yeah! So that's why I'm asking you, what is so morally defensible about the people killing their own kids, sacrificing them to their gods, committing acts of prostitution and depravity, having orgies, and other despicable acts, versus God just saying, go in there, because I'm giving you this land, because I promised it to your ancestors, and you're going to kill everybody in that land. Because if you don't, you're going to start worshiping their gods, and you're going to start doing exactly what they do. Which is exactly what happened. You absolute freaking moron. Like I said, 2 kings. Ahaz and Manasseh. And those are only 2 of the kings I can mention in that whole entire book that did evil in the sight of the Lord. So again, I ask you, what is so morally defensible about that? Committing acts of evil like that. I mean, come on, man. Do you sacrifice your sons to Molech? Do you put them on burnt offering tables and sacrifice them? Huh? Come on. You don't? Oh! Well, that's what you're defending when you say God is the one that's morally corrupt. So come on now. Be honest with yourself. Really be honest with yourself here.
Or Christian apologetics or whatever. You know, I never wrote a book about these things because before I ever got to that phase, I realized all the flaws in the Bible. I realized how indefensible the Bible was.
No. The Bible's not indefensible, son. The Bible's only indefensible when you start doing these hoops to jump through. These mental gymnastics to get to this level of cognitive dissonance. That's when you start to understand that, oh, gee, the Bible doesn't make a whole lot more sense to me now. Yeah, because you're not reading it right, son. You're reading it to try to find flaws in it instead of reading it to read it. To understand, why are those commandments there? I mean, literally, God spells out the commandments for you, but you see the effects of it as you read through the Bible more. You start to understand that the acts that the people were committing because they were following these gods and not God would have probably not happened, or at least to a lesser degree happened, had Joshua followed through on the commandment to destroy everybody. Because he didn't. And what you see in the rest of the Bible is the fallout from that, at least the Old Testament. Okay? All the prophets literally point at every single one of those kings. You're doing bad. You're doing bad. They're also pointing at the other nations around them. They're doing bad. They're doing bad. But they're going to conquer you, and then the Lord will deliver you. They're going to conquer you, then the Lord will deliver you. That's the message, son. Because he's trying to get the Israelites to understand that he is their true king. Not some guy sitting in a palace somewhere. Because you can have kings sitting in palaces all day long, and it doesn't matter. And they only had like 5 good kings if you count them on one hand. Okay? I mean, Saul was an okay king. I mean, strictly speaking, compared to a lot of the other descendants, yeah, he was a better king. Yeah, he tried to kill David a few times, but he wasn't sacrificing his children. He wasn't doing any of that kind of stuff. He was trying to follow God. Okay, David was probably the best king that Israel ever had. Okay, Solomon was okay, and then you start getting into all of the other kings. And there was Hezekiah, he was a good king. There was Josiah, he was a good king. And there was like one other one. There was like one or two other ones in there. So there was like 5 or 6 kings. Okay? But honestly, son, okay, your moral compass is so fucked up right now that you think that what the people were doing in the land of Canaan was so morally good that God commanding the Israelites to go in and kill them all is evil. That is fucked up beyond belief. And I don't know what else to say to that. Other than, if you're a Christian, okay, and you've heard this guy and you're kind of thinking, maybe, like I said, go read just the 5 books of Moses, okay? And then after Deuteronomy, you read Joshua, Judges, and 1st and 2nd Kings. That's all you need to read to understand why God put forth the commandment, kill them all, because otherwise you're going to start doing what they do. Because that's exactly what they do. And it got to the point where God finally said, I've had it. Away with you. Get out of my land for 70 years. And he did. He sent the Babylonians to conquer them for 70 years. Okay? And they lived in Babylon for 70 years. And then the king of Assyria conquered Babylon. Okay? And then he brings him in, and then he says, okay, here's, and the king of Assyria was like, okay. Because the prophet Joel comes up to him and says, I'd like to go back and rebuild our temple so that we can worship our God. And the king of Assyria says, here's a bunch of gold, here's a bunch of stuff, here's a bunch of materials, go and rebuild your temple. And 70 years afterwards, they come back and they build the second temple that stood until 70 AD. When the Romans basically came in and smashed the temple, which is now where the Dome of the Rock sits. Okay? This guy does not know what the hell he's talking about. At all. Ever. Okay? Do not take it from men. Take it from God. Okay? Which is why I'm going to ask you, how sharp is your sword? You'll notice that he never brought up, outside of just bringing up God commanding the Israelites to kill the Amalekites, which weren't the only people he told them to kill, okay? He never brought up a single contradiction in the Bible here. Now, in the next part, he will kind of talk about, I believe it's, he talks about, because it's been a while since I've watched the video all the way through, I believe he's going to talk about the rooster crowing and Peter's 3 denials, okay? And he's going to bring that up as a major contradiction. It's not, because again, we'll talk about that because it relates back to J. Werner Wallace's Cold Case Christianity and some of that stuff. But again, this guy has no clue what a true contradiction is. Okay? And we'll talk a little bit about that when we get into the next part. Okay? When we get to that part, we'll talk about that. So smash that like button, hit subscribe, drop a comment below. Let me know what you think of this series so far. And as we say, we will see you on the next one.